Patty, will you do a roll call, please?
Al Eckert. Rusty Moss.
Here.
Chris Racy.
Here.
David Vandergriff.
Here.
Wes Ward.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Approval of September meeting minutes.
Minutes.
Got a motion, second. Yeah. Got the administrative report. Administrative report.
Good morning. I have a couple of updates before I get to the Tawnytown, Arkansas update that was requested last meeting. So I want to share some good news. Two of our own were awarded the Distinguished Service Award at the AEF conference in Hot Springs earlier. Jared Swifel and Tom Rayum, so we're really proud of them, and I wanted to share that with you all. We love an opportunity when the folks outside recognize our staff, and so wanted to highlight them too. Also, this month, we have transitioned a few of our programs in SEEK over to the Inspect. So we now have inspectors in the fields using tablets, working through inspections. It's just a streamlined process. It goes to our website. We're really excited about this next step. And so these 3 pilot programs will just set the path for other programs moving forward. And so we're trying to work with the regulated community to make sure they understand our program as well. But we're really excited for more transparency, faster products in the field. So before you have a summary of Tawnytown and the waste management Ecovista landfill is in that area has been the subject of some of the things come before you, but I wanted to just give an update on the status of inspections, violations, complaints, and also the air monitoring data that was requested. And after this, I will send you guys the full reports from CTEH as well as the health department's letter and determination. So first of all, you have a list of the type of permits that they all have at this facility and in this area. And the number of inspections we've conducted in the last 5 years is 98. And I want to caveat that with saying another facility with this type of permit makeup would expect to see about 25 inspections in 5 years. So these 98 full compliance inspections is a little bit higher than normal. And just there's a breakdown of the last 5 years versus with the number of potential cited inspection violations statewide for landfills versus at the Ecovista site. And you can see statewide, we typically cite facilities at a rate of 32% with violations for the number of inspections we go out. At Ecovista, it's 18. It's a little bit less than our state average. Now we are going out there more, and so there's more opportunity to either find things or not find things, especially because some of our inspections are back to back, and so they may have corrected the problem. So I do want to caveat those numbers with just knowing that we are out there substantially more than other sites. We have responded to 192 complaints in the last 5 years. And these complaint responses, they may represent more than one complaint. So we may have received multiple complaints that week or in that day from different residents, but we will respond one time and create one report. So 192 may not adequately represent the number of complaints, individual complaints we've received. The most recent full solid waste compliance inspection was performed August 14th, and there were no violations. On September 11th, there was a odor complaint or an investigation in response to an odor complaint. So our Office of Air Quality performed that inspection, and they did cite a violation for odor. The odor was noted off-site about 3/4 of a mile away, and on-site the same odor. And so they did cite them for a potential violation for odor. and the permittee will have a chance to respond to that potential violation. Now, getting into the air monitoring and sampling that we have requested and we have reports on, in December of 2023, in response to these air quality concerns, and out of abundance of caution, we requested that the 61st, the National Guard, 61st Air Monitoring Division conduct some air monitoring. They used real-time machines to conduct air monitoring for H2S and SO2 and oxygen, and their 24-hour data indicated that there may be a possibility of the SO2 in the area. And so they recommended some further sampling. So we did that in February. We also contracted a third party to do some analytical testing at the same time, just more robust sampling. This testing is also ran by a certified laboratory. So we wanted to be able to do that. So the 61st real-time monitoring again came back with maybe an indication of SO2. However, the third parties analytical and real-time monitoring in the same area at the same locations at the same time did not have any report detections of those compounds. So based on that, we had made the determination that there was not a human health or environmental concern for those two compounds. However, the independent environmental contractor did report the presence of two compounds, benzene and acrolein, in the air. So they were above the residential standards, and these tests were conducted in the residential community. So that is the standard that we would use. However, these are below the industrial standards, and in some cases, these are typical concentrations you would find in suburban areas. So as a result of those February results, in April, we had the third-party contractor go back out again and perform the same tests. We consulted with the Department of Health to expand some of our testing sites. We were trying to maintain the same testing sites to try to get data over time, but we expanded those to get some more background samples as well and to go a little bit further out. And so that test came back, again, observing benzene and acrolein, but also some other compounds, carbon tetrachloride, and the chloroform and naphthalene as well. And the report goes into detail as how these were found, whether upwind, crosswind, downwind. I want to note that these compounds were also found in background samples. So the health department again looked at these report and came to its own conclusions, and they did agree that these are expected concentrations in some rural subdivisions. They are over the RSL, the residential screening level that EPA has set, but they are expected in some of these suburban areas. So as a result of ADH's analysis of the CTH report, we are initiating and considering options for procurement to do additional testing. And so that procurement will go through the Office of State Procurement. At this time, approximately $107,000 have been spent in Taneytown for air monitoring, but we are still identifying potential funds and potential resources for funding additional testing. And the map shows the April testing. So you can see where the sample locations were and the list of the analytical results. And the orange shows you which ones were above the RSL. Are there any questions?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to ask you on your sentence, you said the ADH knows benzene levels at testing sites were in ranges, quote, expected for rural subdivisions. I'm kind of interested what that means in terms, I mean, obviously homes outside of the main town out in the country a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I can ask them for their source for that, and they may have quoted it in the letter, which I will provide a copy of the full letter.
Okay.
So they may have indicated their source for that. However, I would say that benzene is something that cars,
Right.
traffic, could be a result of traffic, and so it's possible that's what they're referencing.
Okay, and one other point is, if you, you noted the, that, excessive odor violation of Rule 18. If you would, you said the permit is opportunity to respond, obviously, y'all are in the process of going through that. If you would, at your director's report, whenever that is concluded, just, let us know how that came out.
Yes, sir, we can do that. It's a possibility that it could come before this commission, and so I would be reluctant to give too much, observation on that,
Okay.
but we can
I mean,
definitely.
if you're telling us it's going to hearing, that's all you gotta say.
Okay. I don't know that it's a.
I understand, just whatever happens, that's
Right.
fine. Thank you very much.
Any other
Any more
questions?
questions? Thank you.
I think.
Public comments, I have two here. David Peterson with Ozark Society.
Yeah, that's pertinent to the moratorium issue.
Say that again.
It's pertinent to the moratorium issue, not this issue.
That's fine, sir. You can go ahead, get up and make a comment if you could. Yeah, please.
I have some handouts. Can I hand them out?
I'm sorry?
Handouts.
Okay.
Thank you.
But sir, typically we give you 5 minutes for public comment. Do you think you're going to need more than that?
No,
Okay, thank you,
I'll
sir.
be reasonably brief.
All right.
I'm David Peterson. I have a PhD in mathematics. I taught at UCA for 34 years, and I'm the past president of the Ozark Society. And I want to encourage the continuation of the moratorium that's been supported. But there are a couple things that I think I would like to mention. The first question I have there is, did C&H Hog Farm, the test case, cause a significant change in water quality over the 5-year span that BCRET collected data? And the answer is yes, and you'll see a graph there. The average, the mean nitrate levels below C&H were more than double those above the farm. There's 116% increase. That's significant, statistically significant. The flow weighted total phosphorus, which is the phosphorus load, was 69% higher below the farm than above. There's a 600-foot deep farm well at the farm, 600 feet deep. And over 4 years, the nitrate level in that well increased by 61%. There's an ephemeral stream that runs past the farm, in essence, just downhill. And the nitrate levels in that ephemeral stream were 7 times higher than the stream. That's incredible. The old E. coli levels in Big Creek were high. The geomean over 5 years was 154 colonies per 100 milliliters. That's high enough to make for DEQ to declare it hazardous for swimming and contact. So that, I think that's a small part of the environmental impact of the farm. There's no doubt about it. On the other hand, the statistical impact of C&H on the buffalo mainstem nutrient levels was not particularly large, and there's several reasons why that's the case. The drainage area at the farm is only 41 square miles, but like at Highway 65, it's 829. In other words, at the farm, it was only 5% of the drainage of the Buffalo River. And so whatever impact from the excessive nutrients on Big Creek, they were diluted significantly. But we all know that dilution is not a pollution solution, so that's just going to occur. The other thing is, And an increased nutrient load can be partially absorbed by stream organisms, although that's sort of controversial and the evidence isn't clear. But also Big Creek is a losing stream and it's in karst. And it's been well established through dye tracing and so forth that at least in low water, a good share of the Big Creek water is spread out along the Buffalo River, downstream as far as three miles, a couple miles upstream. The immediate impact where Big Creek hits the Buffalo River is hard to measure. The USGS has spent a lot of effort trying to do that, but it's been inconclusive. And then the other question I want to address is what has been the impact of the Buffalo River moratorium on hog farming in Arkansas? Well, it turns out that the number of large hog farms, greater than 2,000 animals, in Arkansas decreased from 64 in 2017 and 5 years later to 34. It's been dropped in half in 5 years, but this has nothing specifically to do with the moratorium. The Buffalo River watershed is less than 2% of the Arkansas land area. That means there's 98% of the state available for hog CAFOs if conditions were right, if the economics were attractive and the DEQ permitting were environmentally protective. That may be a problem for agriculture, but it's not because of moratorium. I think in this regard, Missouri has more than 2,300 CAFOs, hog CAFOs. If you look at that density in the Buffalo River, that would be equivalent to 40 hog farms on the Buffalo River. And the question we have for us, is that something that people would really want? 1.5 million visitors to the Buffalo River would really want? Iowa has more than 10,000 such farms, and the equivalent density on the Buffalo River would be 200 farms. I mean, this is a problem, but it is a problem that we can avoid on the Buffalo River, it seems to me. And my conclusions are, there is a legacy of phosphorus on CNH fields and likely an nitrate plume that was never actually detailed after the farm was closed down. The Ozark study urged DEQ to continue monitoring Big Creek for 5 more years, but they declined to do that. So we don't know what the longer term impact of the big CNH on Big Creek was.
Doctor, you're past your 5 minutes.
Oh, I have it. Okay.
Yep,
So I'm done.
you are.
Yeah. So the question is, where does DEQ draw the line if they don't enforce the moratorium? So that's it.
Thanks, sir.
Are there any questions?
David, I have floated the entire length of the Buffalo River in various segments from Dixon Ford, 13 miles above Boxley, all the way to the White River. And I have camped near the mouth of Big Creek. So I'm keenly concerned, as the Ozark Society is, about these issues. I understand you want us to enforce the moratorium. Is there any other action you think you would like this commission to take that we have the jurisdiction and authority to take?
Yeah, well, I speak to the science effort of these things, and there's people management issues, like how many people can the river really tolerate? That's being addressed by the national park, I think, right now. They're in a 20-year renewal cycle of their objectives. Yeah, from my point of view, the thing that could be improved is just a stronger scientific effort, so you really know what's happening. And that's an asset problem. And almost every agency in the state would say they lack money, and I think that's true for the Buffalo River.
Thanks.
Anything else? Well, thank you for your time.
Keith, love it.
My name is Kenneth Lovett. I want to speak to something that Miss Taylor said. She says that benzene is over the
Would you
RSA.
speak more plainly into the microphone?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Ken, when you hold your head up.
I'll hold this up like this then. Miss Taylor spoke about benzene over the RSL in our community. It's actually 4,900% over the RSL. That's not normal. That was not on the Eco Vista property. That was actually about 50 yards in front of my front door. There needs to be a lot of tests in this area. And speaking for the community, we're not getting that. We have a broad issue of inadequate environmental regulations and oversight in our environment here in Arkansas. Boston Mountain Waste District has no oversight. They can't even procure properly. The one that orders supplies also receives them, and Robin Reed thinks that's okay. ADEQ has no oversight. Commissioner Eckert asked Ms. Taylor last month to bring a report today because we didn't know what was going on. I've heard what she said. We still don't have nothing going on, nothing happening. They're not doing their jobs. PC&EC employs their own lawyer to be on the staff to, in my opinion, twist the inadequate regulations in favor of the PC&EC. The system, as it is not working. Other than the pollution we have from waste management, Eco Vista and Tiny Town, the Mark recycling fire in Rogers last week is a good example. And by the way, in December this year, we will have the 4-year anniversary of when I was personally overcome by vapors while driving down a public street in Arkansas under ADEQ's regulations. Rogers Fire Department made a statement about the fire whenever everybody was talking about it. It said the department special operations team has sampled the air on site and found no elevated levels outside of the smoke. This indicates no residual contamination has occurred. However, all individuals are encouraged to consider their personal characteristics and avoid contact with smoke from any fire. But we finally had somebody tell the truth. Peter Massonis, the Rogers Fire Department assesses for carbon monoxide in the air to determine safety for firefighters, but does not assess air quality for city residents. Rogers officials said contact ADEQ. We all know how the process works. We just do it go through the legal process. We don't worry about people. The ADEQ does not do their jobs. They do not have knowledge or equipment needed to respond to emergencies. They're complacent. From what I understand, there is no test done by any entity to check the ambient air upstream or downstream from the Merck fire for particulate matter, proven and known pollution, air pollution. Expectations are that ADEQ are regulators with knowledge and contacts to get the job done. But if you look at Regulation 22, it has not been updated since March 28th to 2007, 17 years ago. You yourself spoke about that, said, I'd like to have a lot of lawyers look at that. I know a lot of lawyers like to look at that regulation. We don't need robbers. Who is assigned to do the update on that regulation? Hopefully not a room full of lawyers working for Shyster Heister. Lawyers should be banned from holding seats on the commission. That's my opinion. Although anyone can be a redneck, there's a difference in college educators' mindset and the rednecks management Eco Vista landfill. Landfill management needs to be educated, and you need to be sure the proper regulations are in place and followed by ADEQ, other regulating authorities in Arkansas, so that education is given properly. That's all my opinion. I have to deal with this stuff every day. I've been dealing with it for 4 years. I hadn't got nothing yet. Do I need to move? Do I have to leave my home? What are y'all doing? Need help?
Thank you, sir. Angela Russell.
Good afternoon, or good morning, I should say. First of all, I would like to thank Ms. Bailey for bringing the traffic emission odors to our attention. Just for your information, that very well possibly could be true. We have hundreds and hundreds of waste management trucks and semi trucks coming down that area regularly every single day. So I am glad that she did bring that to your attention, because it very well could be from the landfill, waste management, the trucks traveling to the landfill, semis. Also, I have a documentation on odor, that odor was present in the landfill in 2020. I do have a handout, and I believe she is supposed to be handing it out to you guys.
Yes.
She has. Okay, thank you so much. I just wanted that documentation. You guys have that documentation. Dr. Calcagney has sent a letter in, and the letter was responded to by the Arkansas Department of Health. Now, in that documentation on the Arkansas Department of Health, if you will look down to number 2 on the first page of that, it does state that DEQ does monitor air emissions, water and soil conditions from permitted landfills as laid out in Reg 22. If they already monitor and supposed to be monitoring this, where's the funding at? They're saying that there is no funding. They're supposed to be doing this for Regulation 22. They're already supposed to be doing it. So why are they now looking for money for testing? I don't understand that. Waste management pays ADEQ $2.50 per ton of every single trash that goes into the landfill. That's where they get the money from. Why can't they use that money for the testing? On September the 18th, 2024, I had a citizen contact me. She said that she and one of her friends were sitting out on their back porch. She said she didn't say anything, but her friend started telling her that her lips were tingling, her arms were tingling. She was very dizzy, lightheaded, sick to her stomach. Her friend got up and laughed and went home. She said just a little while later, the same thing happened to her. This lady ended up in the hospital because of the fumes and the chemicals that she was smelling on her back porch. The ambulance came to get her, and she said, "Oh, no, I don't want to go to the hospital." They said, "I'm sorry, you have no choice. Your blood pressure, all of your body functions are not allowing us to leave you here. You have to go." She documented this. She has all of the documents for 4 different doctors, and she told them, "It's because I was smelling the chemicals coming from the landfill." This lady tried to send you guys a complaint form. She got an error. That's why she contacted me. She got an error. She said, "I can't even send in my complaints because I'm getting errors. They won't let me send in complaints." The doctor would not release her to drive for over a week. Something has to be done. I don't know what else to do. I have done everything that I could possibly think of. I need your help. The citizens of Tawnytown need your help. We have got to do something about that landfill. I appreciate every one of you listening to me. I hope you do look at the documentation, and I hope someone follows up on this where this lady received errors and can't get the information to you guys. Please look into that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Watkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Appreciate the opportunity to make comments today. My name is Gordon Watkins. I'm the president of the Buffalo River Watershed Alliance. And I have a couple of mainly questions, but some comments. First comment is I urge you to go ahead and support the permanent moratorium language that's in the final draft of Reg 6. We think that's extremely important. And I wanted to speak to the fact that that language states that no new permits will be issued in the Buffalo River watershed, but that does not prevent any existing permits from being renewed or modified, as long as they don't increase the number of animals. There are currently 4 permits within the Buffalo River watershed that are listed as inactive. Now, I'm not clear on exactly what that means. They're not voided, they're just inactive. And if you look back through the history of those permits, some of them have not submitted annual reports in over 20 years, in spite of being requested multiple times by DEQ to do so. And my understanding of the rules, and please tell me if I'm wrong about this, but my understanding is that permit holders are required to either submit an annual report or a closure report. And in all 4 of these permits, that neither of those have been done. So my point here is, and I realize that there's some gray areas here because Reg 5 is being transferred over to the Department of Agriculture. And it's unclear what the consultation requirements with DEQ will be in that. But my understanding was that only permits in good standing would be transferred to the Department of Agriculture. So the question to you is, are those 4 permits in good standing? And why have they not been voided if they have not been in compliance with the regulations? So that's my main comment, but I'd also like to ask a question about assuming that you all approve the language for the moratorium and it goes to the legislature and the legislature disapproves it and sends it back to PC&E for revision. Will that trigger another comment period? Is that a substantial revision that would require another public comment period? That's all my comments. I don't know if you have any questions for me or any answers for me. I would appreciate it. One of each. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Questions, comments? Let's see. Are there any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like Judge Moulton, if he could, to respond to his request about whether there would be another public comment period or not.
Well, a couple of points, Commissioner Eckert. One is in terms of the actual comment, looking at the actual language of the rule, Mr. Watkins is correct in terms of, it says the director shall not issue a permit pursuant to this rule for a new swine CAFO in the Buffalo River watershed. But in terms of the grandfathering legislation, it says this rule does not prohibit the director from issuing a new Rule 6 permit for a facility that holds an active liquid animal waste management system permit. And I think the key is that word active. I think what Mr. Watkins described was a bunch of inactive facilities. That's going to be a little twist in terms of if they do indeed, if the division does indeed get an application to restart those, how it's going to view that verbiage. But if you're going to alter or change, I think any of that, you probably have to go back out for rulemaking, because what's already been gone out has been commented and we are ready to adopt or deny. So any changes that you would suggest, I think would be fundamental in that regard, and you probably have to send it back out for public comment. Answer your question, Commissioner?
Yes, thank you.
Right.
So it's an up or down vote, or we send it back?
It's an up or down vote, I think, regardless. Now, if it's down, it would be, okay, well, why is it down and what is it that you want to change? But Mr. Vice Chair, back to you, sir.
Good. Any further comments? Okay, on Michael McAllister on Regulation State Administration Solution.
Mr. Vice Chair, could you turn your microphone on? I don't think it's on.
Is it not on?
Well, maybe you're not near it.
I didn't get into it to speak.
We can hear you
I
now.
have a habit of my voice going down, and my wife doesn't agree with that.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Michael McAllister, Managing Attorney for the department. Here on a motion to adopt and finalize the rulemaking on Rule 6. If you'll recall, this was initiated before the commission in July. As it was outlined in the packet accompanying that initiation, these are changes that are needed to make sure Rule 6 complies with provisions of federal law regarding National Pollution Discharge Elimination System permits, NPDES permits under the Clean Water Act. So we have a few tweaks in Rule 6 we need to do to make sure we are good with the federal regs. There are some changes in Rule 6 to make sure it complies with acts of the General Assembly that have changed a few things around. Those are all detailed in the packet that was presented to you in July. I think in the packet before you today, the nature of those changes. This went out for public notice. There was a public hearing, opportunity for public comments. That opportunity, public comment period was extended in this instance. I believe there were approximately 203 comments on this rulemaking received. A response to comments as part of the packet before you this morning. If you want to see the details of those comments. A lot of those comments had to do with section 6.602 of this rule, commonly referred to as the moratorium. You've heard some comments this morning about the moratorium and its impact on permitting concentrated animal feeding operations and large swine operations in the area of the Buffalo River. This rulemaking does nothing to change the current status quo. It does make some tweaks to the language to recognize the fact that state permits for liquid animal waste management were transferred by the General Assembly to the regulatory oversight of the Department of Ag. We're aware that Ag is developing that program and their rules. We've been working in cooperation and conjunction with them to make sure that their rules and our rules aren't in any way in conflict. So that's the only changes to that part of Rule 6 in this rulemaking. The rest of them are necessary, again, to make sure the rule is compliant with federal law, with state law, and to clean up some verbiage. This rule was kind of in flux when transformation happened. If you'll remember, we changed a bunch of our existing rules wholesale to change from reg to rule and department to division and do some of those housekeeping things never got implemented in Rule 6. So that's part of this as well. But that's really all this does. There's a minute order before you to finalize the commission's action on this rulemaking, and then it will go on to review by legislative committee before it is final and approved. So if there's any questions, I will do my best to try to answer them or call upon more knowledgeable people in the room if you really want to get down in the weeds of any of these, but I think it's fairly straightforward.
Mr. Chairman, question. Mike, I assume this eventually will also go over to Region 6 for review.
Well, yeah, I assume it will.
As part of the process, that's usually, okay. I mean, I don't know if
I mean, it's the rule implementing our delegation of the federal program.
Right.
And that's part of why we want to make sure it's fully compliant with current federal regs.
Right. I just didn't know if this had been vetted over there or not, or.
Has it been sent to Region 6 yet? I don't think it gets sent until it's filed.
I just didn't know if there'd been conversation with them about this or not. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know that there has yet, but it
All right.
will go to Region Six.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Are there any other questions?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Then we would ask that you approve the minute order before you and finalize this one and let us carry it on down the road. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, you need to go ahead and ask for a motion on that minute order, if you could.
Motion.
Yes, sir. All right, there's a motion from Commissioner Vandegrift to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Eckert. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, no, for the record that the motion passed. Ms. Goff, if you'd be so kind as to start circulating that minute order.
Thank you, Charlie.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any comments?
Yes, sir. Commissioners, I just have I guess for the lack of a better term, somewhat of a stale NOV. The division filed a motion to withdraw and non-suit that NOV, and the recommended decision is a 1 or 2 page recommendation granting that request. Similar to Mr. McAllister, I would appreciate a favorable vote on that recommendation, and I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chairman, for that motion and vote.
You need a motion.
Yes, sir.
We have a motion.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know for the record, the decision of the commission was unanimous. And I would typically say that concludes my report, but I have one question for Commissioner Ward. As I noticed in today's news that you were involved in some sort of best burger of Arkansas. And apparently the winner was a restaurant from Cave City, and the burger is called Caveman Burger, which apparently is a 2-pound behemoth. So my question is, did you eat the burger?
I ate half of one. Literally about that big. It's a big burger. But it was good.
Was it good?
It was really good. Highly recommended.
Mr. Chairman, before we get off, you're gonna have to pick another chair.
Do what?
You're gonna have to pick another chair. So let me set the table for the commission in terms of where you're at. Commissioner Melton, who was selected as chair, tendered his resignation a couple of weeks before the last commission meeting. We can't have any of the agency members serve as chair, unfortunately, because of a statutory prohibition. I've had a conversation with Commissioner Moss, and he has expressed concerns essentially related to whether or not he could hear well enough to conduct a meeting. I talked to Commissioner Eckert, and he's willing to serve as chair again. Commissioner Vandegrift is rolling off the commission theoretically. I've never had a conversation with you about whether or not you want to be reappointed or whether you want to serve again or what your plans are. But the 2 people that would be left right now in the commission that could serve as chair and vice chair, if Commissioner Moss doesn't want to do that, would be Commissioner Vandegrift and Commissioner Eckert. So there has to be a motion or a nomination for one of these 2 gentlemen as chair and one of these 2 gentlemen as vice chair.
I nominate Al Eckert to be chair. My reasoning is, my term is up at the end of February.
Yes, sir.
And I don't think it would be fair to whomever the new commissioner is, and I assume there will be one. I haven't had any communications with anybody about this position on the commission, whether it's me or somebody else, and I'm assuming it'll be someone else. And I think it would not be fair to the incoming commissioner to say, hey, congratulations, you're now chair of the commission on day one, so. But I don't mind serving as vice chair until then.
It's the prerogative of the commission, what you gentlemen would like to do. So if there's a motion to, make Commissioner Eckert a chair,
Got one here and a second.
Commissioner Ward, you made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
I,
Motion passes. Guess what, Commissioner? You are once again the chair of this commission. So is there a motion to nominate a vice chair? All right. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Commissioner Racy seconded. All in favor?
I,
All right, motion passes. Gentlemen, thank you very much, all of you, for your service to this body. With that, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Okay.
2-minute orders. Make sure you sign 2-minute orders.
I can't hear you.
Move to adjourn if you'd like.
Yes.
All right.
We'll make motion to adjourn.
so moved.
We're adjourned. Thank y'all. I'm sorry my hearing's so bad.